Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. Today we have New York Times bestselling author Dr. Rick Hanson, and we are talking about his book, Hardwiring Happiness. Do you realize this is, I was thinking, this I think is my all-time favorite book of the year. This is my all-time favorite book. I read it I think probably about 3 months ago when we did our first radio interview, and I reread the key parts of it today. It is just such a great book, and I think a really important book. Yeah. I've been interviewing a bunch of people on happiness, and I realized that it's something that we don't know how to do. No one's ever really trained us how to be happy. And I think one of the key things that your book does is it's teaching us how to be happy and understanding why we aren't happy, right? Our brain is predisposed towards, you call it in your book, Hardwiring Happiness. You talk about it as a Velcro for bad, which I didn't know. Yeah. So I want to talk to you today about how you went about rewiring your brain. Can you talk about your own personal experience and how you use the materials in these books to kind of change your own relationship to life?
Yeah. How about I kind of plant two seeds, then I'll tell my story briefly and illustrate these seeds. The first seed has to do with what do we mean by this word happiness? Mm-hmm. And happiness for me is a broad term that includes ordinary experiences of gratitude or having fun or joy that your team wins the playoffs or something like that. But it also includes much more fundamental, broader experiences of well-being, inner peace, a sense of harmony with others in your life, as well as an underlying sense of fulfillment or purpose or satisfaction in life. So it's a broad term. It's easy to dismiss happiness as simply a matter of, smell the roses, enjoy the donuts, right? But happiness in this deep fundamental sense, that scientists use the term, is much more important to us. Mm-hmm. The second seed I want to plant is that happiness is not just a momentary experience that's nice, better than a stick in the eye. Happiness is a resource to grow inside yourself that makes you stronger, makes you more resilient. There's a lot of research that shows that in the broad sense I'm using the word happiness, people with more well-being, more sense of inner peace, more sense of fulfillment in life, meaning in life, are more resilient. They bounce back faster. Their bodies recover more quickly from things like surgeries or injuries or trauma of various kind. Mm-hmm. And they also have more inside themselves to give to other people. Mm-hmm. So happiness is not just selfish, it's actually good for others to grow your own personal happiness. Okay.
And are you bringing those points up because some people think, oh, you're just selfish for wanting to be happy all the time? Do people say that?
Oh, yeah. And I think, honestly, to tread carefully in the landmine of conversations about gender and socialization, many studies show that, as a broad generalization with exceptions, women tend to be socialized to focus on the happiness of others ahead of their own personal happiness. So I've definitely bumped into a lot of, I would say, sort of like blocks in people, especially women, about resistance in a sense internally, or a sense of inhibition, or it's inappropriate.
Yeah,
or
I'm being self-indulgent. I'm being self-indulgent and selfish. Yeah. I need to focus on other people. I get that. I'm a woman, I think. I'm a woman, I think, and I do get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I actually see that as, like you said, it's a state of being when you actually are in a whole, balanced, peaceful place. You can actually help people more.
Yeah. Just think about it. What do you like? You personally, or some other person. Let's say, what are we like when we feel like we're running on empty? Mm-hmm. We're frazzled. My dad grew up on a ranch in North Dakota. There's a country saying there for horses. Feeling like you've been rid hard and put up wet. In other words, just
that would describe motherhood perfectly.
Yeah. Well, then something happens.
Yeah.
The kids are squabbling, your partner's late coming home, your partner forgets to bring home the milk you need. Fill in the blank. Someone's on TV that you don't like, their politics, whatever it is.
Yes.
What do you like?
Yeah.
And then the phone rings and you've really had it up to here with your sister-in-law or something.
Right.
On the other hand, imagine feeling basically good, like you had a good day, you're kind of tired, a lot of stuff happened, it was a real day, but there's a sense that you're you're full. You're in the green zone inside yourself. And then the same thing happens. The kids squabble, your partner forgets the milk. How do you deal with it?
Yeah.
You're much more likely to be patient and nurturing and, sane in that kind of situation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So how does one start becoming happy? I mean, part of your book has this heal process, which is, experiencing, enriching experience, absorbing it, and then linking it to some of the negative experiences. Yeah. But how did you put this in practice?
Yeah, that's a good segue to my little personal story. So the quick version is I grew up in a normal range environment. But I had lots of experiences, both in my family and also in school, of feeling not seen, excluded, unwanted, dismissed, put down, rejected, blah, blah. Nothing horrible, especially compared to some of the things that can happen in the world, but it mattered. It made a difference. So then when I finally landed in college, I was very young going through school. Yeah. And so when I landed in college, I started to notice that if I just did three things, it made an enormous difference. One, I started noticing good facts in which people actually seem to like me or include or want me. And on the 0 to 10 scale, it was a 1 or a 2. These are the real, ordinary, mild good facts of daily life. But I tried to notice them. And then second, I tried to feel something as a result. Not just notice, oh, you smiled at me, or you wanted me to come along in some situation, or you seem to appreciate me, but actually feel something. And then the third thing I did, which was which was the key, I took in the experience. I stayed with it 10 or 20 seconds straight to really enjoy it, to open to it in my body, and to feel like it was going in. This was a natural practice if you think about it, because these were enjoyable experiences of feeling cared about. Yeah. But as I did this, a few times a day maybe, in my ordinary life, usually less than half a minute at a time, a very realistic, doable, and private kind of thing. Nobody knew I was doing this. I wasn't revealing it to anybody.
Yes, you're standing in the grocery line, presumably, but really you're going through your whole process.
Yeah, I'm just tuning in like, wow, these are nice people. They like me. They're making room for me. They're doing with me. This girl over here is flirting a little with me. There's something going on. And exactly. Yeah. So I was taking it in. I was like eating it and I was listening to the longings of my heart. The longings in your heart are a great teacher. What do you long for? Often it's very wholesome. We may go about getting it in problematic or unwholesome ways, but what we long for is always good for us deep down.
Yeah, and the one thing I love about your book is the structure, because ultimately those things that we long for are complex, but they really break down to the satisfaction, safety, and connection. And knowing those three things helps a lot, because you go, what's missing here? Oh, I'm not feeling safe, or I'm not feeling satisfied, I'm not feeling connected, which then gets you into the remedy of it, right? If you don't know what the basic thing that you're missing is, what your need is, then you can't even go to the next level, right?
That's right.
But what I love about your book is just distilling down, and there's many different ways of saying those three words, but basically distilling it down to three things.
Oh, thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
I mean, in the book, it's like I'm trying to teach a skill.
Yeah.
And we all know how to do it in a basic way, and that's good to know. This is natural. It's less complicated than using chopsticks.
Right.
Really think about it. We all know how to have a beneficial, wholesome, pleasant, enjoyable experience, and we all know how to savor it, to kind of stay with it, all right? What I'm talking about, though, in my book is getting really good at this. Because I think this is the key in many ways to growing in life. Because if we don't grow through our experiences, our learning curve is flat as we go through life. So the essence is have it, enjoy it.
Okay, here's what happened with my own personal experience.
I want to hear about it.
So I actually read your book, and I was pretty good and diligent about doing it. And then I would say, and luckily I remembered that I was going to have this interview, so I keep on touching point back to like the 21 days. In your book, your book, Hardwiring Happiness, you suggest 21 days of work where you can heal yourself, which is to have an enriching experience around safety or security or connection, and really start hardwiring your brain in a different way. And so what I found is that it was easier to do for some things, harder, and some things I didn't feel like I needed. Like the connection piece, I'm lucky to have a lot of love in my life, so I didn't really feel like it didn't feel as much as a need, but the safety piece was a real need. And I found that it did help to do it, but it's hard to remember to do it. So what are some tips that you've done in your own life? Because it sounds like you've maybe have even hardwired this process, but for those who are starting, what are some tips that you have for us to kind of make this a reality in our life?
Yeah. Well, I think 2 for sure, and then if you really want to hit the home run and go into the deep waters, I'll tell you about the third.
Okay.
The third is like the super secret one.
Okay.
I'll tell you. Okay.
Okay.
So number 1, just as you go through life, look for the good news.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't believe in positive thinking. I believe in realistic thinking, seeing the whole mosaic of reality with a brain that's designed to over-focus on the negative and over-learn from it. Mm-hmm. Okay? So as you go through your life, as your ordinary day, look for those flowers, enjoy that food. Like, you have a lovely, kind face. I'm looking at your face right now. What an opportunity. You're warm,
Thank
your
you.
eyes, you're present, you're a top-tier person, you want me on your show. There are all these legitimate opportunities for wholesome experiences inside myself, of feeling seen.
Okay, wait, hold on while I actually enrich those comments and absorb them fully. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Or are we wasting it? That's
right.
the thing. Normally we go through life leaving all this money on the table.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So
I use a metaphor that life is like a path strewn with little jewels.
Yeah.
And we mostly don't even notice them, or if we notice them, we go, or if we even feel something, we go, okay, fine, move on.
Yes.
You know? So that's one. Just in general, that shifts everything. Then second, going to what you said, what's your key need? Like, you've talked about my structure that's based on the evolution of the reptile, mammal, primate, human stages of evolution, safety, satisfaction, connection. Your particular issues were in the safety system. Mine were more in the connection system. So if you have a feeling, anybody watching this, or listening here, if you have a feeling that there's something that would make a difference for you, if you could grow more of it inside yourself, if you could feel, for example, less anxious or angry, that's the safety system. Or if you'd like to feel less disappointed or frustrated, or like life is not very fulfilling, that's the satisfaction system. Or if you'd like to feel less lonely or inadequate or let down by other people or hurt or even ashamed, that's the connection system. If instead you'd like to feel strong and safe and relaxed, safety, or fulfilled, accomplished, pleasured, successful, that's satisfaction. And if you want to feel loved and loving, that's the connection system. You can look for the particular experiences that you really need to grow inside yourself. What are the resource experiences to grow inside yourself that'll meet your needs? That's why in the back of the book, as you were saying, I have this 21 Jewels program where I have 7 experiences, 7 strengths to grow inside yourself for each system. So 7 times 3 gives us 21.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful way, and that's what I did. Mixing my metaphor here, I talked about look for your vitamin C. What's your vitamin C? My vitamin C was feeling included and valued. So I looked for those experiences, and I was relentless to find them because I listened to the longing of my heart. I knew the medicine I needed. If you were anemic, you would look for iron, right? If you had scurvy, you look for C. If you don't have enough protein, you go look for that protein. Whatever it is, And I love this method because, you are really giving yourself what you need in a resourceful way, and you're not letting yourself be defeated by life.
Yeah. So if I'm finding that what I need is satisfaction, what I would do is say, there's a moment I just had an amazing meal, or even a so-so meal. I just ate eggs, and that was gratifying. I did something that was healthy for myself. I feel really good. And to just take a small thing like that, because one of the things that I remember from your book that I love is that it doesn't have to be like, I just climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, I feel satisfied. It could be like, hey, I drove in a car and didn't get into an accident. Oh, I feel satisfied.
That's right. Or I turned on the dishwasher. I got the dishes done.
Feel gratification.
I completed some kind of goal. I'll do it's a really amazing, weird practice to do, but notice all the little steps you accomplish over a day. Like, I lifted the spoon to my mouth. Oh, I put it in. I completed that mouthful of,
Yeah.
I swallowed. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy when you think about it. Yeah. Or you look around for stuff that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like I've actually, you're right. People do develop the habit of this. In the beginning, it can feel like you've got to be a little deliberate. That's why books like mine are useful,
Right.
because they can make it a little more deliberate for yourself.
Right.
But after a while, it becomes very habitual.
Yeah.
And you start feeling like, honestly, you're moving through life lifted and fed by genuine, authentic, realistic experiences while, this is important, letting go of them.
Oh, yes, that's true. Is that your
As soon
third
as you
tip?
start grasping onto those pleasurable experiences, they're no longer pleasurable.
Yes. Oh, wow.
There's
Oh,
deep
wow.
wisdom. I was moving toward the third super secret, It's you've got to open and receive and come into an intimacy with your own experiences while not clinging to them, not getting attached to them, letting them flow through you. So you're both being fed by life and you're also relaxing, grasping, and craving.
Right. You're actually relaxing into... Wait, what did you mean? You said you're relaxing into grasping and craving?
You were releasing, grasping.
Releasing.
You're not resisting what's unpleasant. You're not trying to cling to what's pleasant. You're opening to what's beneficial and wholesome in life. So as it fills you up increasingly, you don't have to be so driven. And also you feel more secure, more confident, even when you're dealing with challenges. You become harder to manipulate with fear or greed or tribalisms, us versus them of various kinds. And so this third way to use these practices, the first way is just kind of in the flow of everyday life. Second way, look for your vitamin C.
Right.
The third way, it helps you relax and release forms of craving and clinging, and it makes you less manipulatable by the forces of fear or greed or, us versus them conflict that are very powerful in our world.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you are traveling a spiritual path, which folks listening may or may not be, these are all the things that they talk about in the Buddhist teachings, right? It's about your hindrances and how do you actually address it. And it's one thing I find, which is really interesting. I had interviewed Joseph Goldstein, and he was talking about mindfulness, and I said, so what do you do? So let's say greed is overcoming you, or how do you deal with it? And he's like, I just sit with the greed. And I thought, well, that sucks, because I'd be sitting in that greed for a really long time. Give me something else, And I think, like you said, this is the vitamin C. This is something, and I think there's almost a balance between those things. Sit in the greed and say, wow, greed is arising, or whatever it is. Doubt is arising, greed is arising, whatever it is that's making you suffer is arising. But then at the same time, you can be present with those things, but then actually I think that this is the counteraction of okay, greed is arising, but what is it that I should feel grateful that I have already? So that I can kind of balance that out.
CJ, you're really getting in a deep thing, and it's which is applicable for people in everyday life. So let's say you're frustrated or disappointed about something, or you really want something. That's what the fancy word greed boils down to in everyday life. Okay, and there is a place. I mean, Joseph is phenomenal. I mean, Joseph's a friend and a teacher for me. I know him very well, and he's right. The first thing to do is to be with it.
Right.
Explore the experience. Like, what does this feel like to really want a cigarette, even though I'm trying to quit smoking?
Right.
What does it feel like? What does it feel like to want that new sweater that you see at Gap, but you can't afford it this month?
Right.
What's that feel like? Okay, do that. That's always worth doing.
Yes.
You'll learn things about yourself, and also often because you're observing the desire, the wanting, it kind of pulls you out of it. You're not so identified with it. And sometimes the desire just kind of fades on its own.
Yeah.
Right? And Joseph's someone who, he'll sit, when he says sit with greed, he'll just sit with greed for an hour. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, a lot of people, that's cool. They're just not going to do that. They don't have a life in which they can do that. And so then, for me, there's the and here. It's not either or. And in addition to mindful experiencing of what's there, where does greed come from? As a neuropsychologist grounded in evolutionary biology, greed comes from a deficit state. or a disturbance state inside. That's the deeper cause of the greed. And very often, if you repeatedly internalize the felt sense of needs met, in this moment there's enough air, in this moment enough water, in this moment there's enough closeness with CJ, in this framework here we're in this moment I'm accomplishing a goal, I'm being this tastes good, this raisin is delicious, this water is fantastic. In this moment there's a fullness. By repeatedly registering those experiences, in weaving those experiences into neural structure, increasingly you grow an unconditional sense inside yourself of your fundamental needs being met, so you have less and less reason for greed.
Yeah.
You feel already so full inside yourself. It would be nice to have that sweater, right? Yeah. But you don't feel like you need it. You don't get driven around it.
Right.
You like it without tipping into gotta have it.
Right.
See that distinction?
Yes.
And that's to me where the two work together.
Yeah.
Where it's totally appropriate to mindfully witness your stuff that's arising. But it's also really important to honor our animal nature.
Right.
To feed the hungry mouse, right? Because if you want to chill out the mouse, feed the mouse. Interestingly, when we experience that our fundamental needs are met in wholesome ways, right, we feel safer or more fulfilled by life, more satisfied, or we feel more connected to others, more cared about, and more loving ourselves. As that happens, interestingly, the fires of craving go out.
Right.
Because we already feel full inside.
Yeah.
We don't keep chasing those experiences. We have them inside already. Right. It's like if you have a full meal, do you want to keep grabbing for more food?
Right.
No. You already feel full.
It's interesting. So what I'm hearing is, okay, yes, it's important to be mindful of what's arising, which is maybe greed or a feeling of unsafeness or whatever is arising. But what I'm hearing, at least what I'm taking away, is it's equally important to be mindful of all the other things. We have a whole field of a spectrum of realities that are happening before us. Yes, we can focus on what's happening internally for us, but if we actually move our focus a little bit outside, we see that there's a beautiful sunny day out, there's a beautiful flower outside my window, those kind of things, to kind of create a whole picture beyond just the greed. And I think it's interesting, because then in fact it's being more mindful than just mindful of the negative thing. It's mindful of the whole shebang, right? That's what I'm
that's
hearing.
exactly right. The way I would put it in 2 words is, it's like a bird needs 2 wings to fly. And as we go through life, we need mindfulness and cultivation. We need to grow the wholesome inside ourselves.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean good old-fashioned virtues, like my dad growing up in North Dakota, determination, resilience, character.
Right.
My wife and I are having the enormous pleasure of watching the TV show Friday Night Lights. We're going back and starting at the very beginning. That's Texas, small town, school football, and a lot of traditional stuff, self-discipline.
Yeah.
Our son just told us this story. He's 26. I'll embarrass him here a little bit. That he's realizing in his self-employment situation, he's building a website business, that he's got to be more disciplined in how he uses his time. Right? So he's growing. He's cultivating that inside himself. So the two go together. In order to sustain mindfulness, we need to cultivate factors like steadiness of mind. And as you said, by being mindful of the whole, that creates more of a basis for cultivation.
Yeah, love it.
And some people in spiritual life or in general say, just be mindful. And I think, no, that's only one wing. Maybe you get a little bit off the ground, but you're missing the other wing.
Yeah.
Then you have these people who say, grow good things inside yourself. And I say, but you also need to be mindful of the big picture.
Yes,
just
absolutely.
Having one wing over here is not enough. You need
I'm
2
with
wings.
you! Yay! Now, this is the missing piece, because I've been studying this I've been interviewing Joseph and Sharon Salzberg and learning about mindfulness, which I actually frankly didn't know a lot about. And there was always like this aching sense like there's something missing, and I really couldn't figure it out, and that's exactly what it is. It's a kind of Taoist cultivation and then being mindful. It's not just one. And I actually think their work is, like you said, it's brilliant. It's very important work. It's the work of the Buddha, so, I'm not going to argue with it, but I think that in daily living, you need kind of this balance of the two. And what a lovely, gosh, I love your perspective. So we have Dr. Rick Hanson again talking about hardwiring happiness. Thank you so much.
Oh,
This
thank
is
you
a
very much.
wonderful
And to be
interview.
clear,
It's always
the
great.
Buddha has no monopoly on mindfulness. Parents tell their kids, pay attention.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Pay attention and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go. All
Thank
right,
you so
TJ,
much.
thank
All
you very
right.
much.
Thanks so much. All right. Take care. Hey, thank you so much for listening to the Fire It Up with CJ show. I hope you enjoyed the show and that you learned something or found something that you'd like to try out. It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.